It is 4 o'clock, 4:01. I'm already late according to Marie's schedule. So we'll go ahead and get started. Yep, I know, but I can't stand to listen to myself that loud. So okay, well, I'm Chuck Bell. Attend a member of the Manchester Church of the Brethren. Wife and I have lived here about 3.5 years now. We transplanted from down around Newcastle is where I grew up, and pastored in the Buck Creek Church of the Brethren. Grew up in the White Branch Church of the Brethren, all down in the Hagerstown, Newcastle area. My brother, this program is about my brother and his wife who went to Kenya, Africa in the about mid-2000s and started a mission work over there. And they ended up then in around 2010, 2011, something there, to start an infant rescue mission. And so they take abandoned newborn babies and care for them, get them healthy enough that they can then be adopted into a forever family for them. They're up around 300 they've rescued so far. Most of those have been adopted out, and you'll see a little bit about it here. My brother's name is David. David made a video in 2020 during COVID when they couldn't come back to the States, couldn't travel. And so I'm going to open with that because he does a really good job of explaining it. So after his video is over, then I've got some slides that I'll also talk about. Oh, I didn't move my controller. I should have brought this up to the front. As a pastor, I really enjoyed using technology, and I used it a lot. But I told him, if you live by technology, you can also die by technology. Let's see if we're going to work here. Not going to want to.
Greetings from Mahali, Maisha. As much as what we wish we could be with you in person this year, giving updates and sharing some stories, obviously that's just not possible this year. So we put together this video just to give you some updates and to allow you to see what's going on here. We hope you enjoy this as much as our kids enjoyed making it.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brie Orbeck, and I recently joined the team here at Mahali, Maisha as the International Communications Director. This role is comprised of many things, but includes things like creating this video. The little one with me here is Panina, and she's the first baby that I helped rescue. We were sitting at dinner and on a call, and Dave and I went to pick her up. Her mother asked a stranger to hold her while she used the toilet and then never returned. She was 3 months old when she was abandoned, and she had red fingernail polish on both her fingernails and her toes. And it is still hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that somebody would take the time, patience, and effort to paint a 3-month-old little girl's fingernails and then later abandon her. Panina had some minor health issues when she first arrived but is now a healthy, happy little girl.
Since I arrived here on January 16, 2020, we've gotten 12 new babies, including Panina. Since currently adoptions are not happening, this brings the amount of babies in our care to an all-time high of 36, as of today, July 8, 2020. 13 of these children are over 1 year old. Organization is key when caring for this many children. There is a carefully crafted schedule that everyone follows to ensure that each child is receiving the care that they need. Each baby has their own bottles and formula dispensers, which are all kept together in their assigned basket, and each older child has their own cup for milk. All of them look different, so that it's easy to tell at a glance which child it belongs to. As much as possible, we try to have things prepared in advance for the next step of each day. There's also a lot of laundry done throughout the day. There are about 4 to 6 loads done each day, and all is hung on the line to dry. Everything is folded and put away by side by the end of each day. We would not be able to do any of this without our Kenyan staff and the support of our partners, and for that we say thank you.
All of our babies receive exercises therapy daily as a part of the routine. It assists with their growth and development. Currently, we have 3 that require additional and specialized therapy. Charity Joy was abandoned right after she was born, found in the bush in the early morning after she had been outside all night in the rain. Rushed to the hospital and treated for hypothermia. A few more hours outside, and she would not have made it. 3 days later, we brought her home and discovered she also had club feet. Untreated club feet can cause many complications, yet it is treatable. We started right away with treatment. She has had 10 castings that went very well, then needed the next treatment. God's timing is perfect, as we had just gotten a note from a friend in Canada who had a top-of-the-line corrective shoe braces her son had outgrown. They were shipped to a team that was coming to Kenya and arrived here just in time for Charity. Charity wears the corrective shoe braces for 12 hours at night. Correcting club feet takes several months. She is progressing well. She is now 6 months old and standing. The other 2 are Tobias and Angelina. Both were abandoned when they were just a few months old. Each of them have different conditions that require specialized therapy to build both physical and mental strength. Prior to the COVID-19, we had a PT coming from Nairobi 2 to 3 times a week to work with each one. So starting in early March, Jen and Bree have been doing all of their therapy. We do a combination of several different types of therapy. Toby started to respond sign language with his first words being shoes. He was so excited when we saw him signing, and when we put on his first pair of shoes, he was elated. One of Toby's favorite words to sign right now is rabbit. Everyone smiles and laughs as we enjoy his abandonment and communicating. After Angelina started to get brain integration therapy to train her right and left brain to talk to each other, she started to mimic sounds. We have also started using video therapy for those with delayed speech. Tobias has now become a verbal child and loves learning new words. Angelina is starting to mimic with her hands by clapping, bending, and squeezing. Another part of the therapy is aquatherapy. This has been a huge part of our little one's development as well, strengthening their tone and muscles in ways that take much longer on hand. And everyone enjoys splashing and playing. This makes therapy fun, with lots of laughter. All therapy takes lots of patience, time, and love, and we are so grateful that each one is responding and progressing in their overall health.
We are often asked why we have older children. Our guidelines state that we'll have babies up to age 2, and it's our hope and our prayer that they will either be returned to biological family or be adopted long before they're 2 years old. We have several children who are considered special needs. Some are HIV positive. Chatty has an autoimmune deficiency. Toby has Down syndrome. And Angelina has an absent corpus callosum. For these children, it's very unlikely they'll be adopted by a Kenyan family due to the stigma and the fear of the unknown. International adoption is these children's best option for them to get their own family. But since international adoption's been closed for a few years, there's just been little choices for them. It has been suggested we transfer these older ones to another home that typically handles older children, but we simply do not feel that that's in the best interest for the children. A child will only bond after being abandoned a time or two, and they are already dealing with being abandoned as infants. Thus, their next move or transition, we believe, needs to be to a permanent family. A new children's bill that is proposed in Kenya will open international adoption back up. We just don't know when this bill will be put into practice. So for now, we're doing all we can to help these 3 and 4-year-olds adjust and be prepared for the time when getting a forever family is a possibility. Most of them, especially Shaddy, prays every day for God to bring them their mommies and daddies. Because we do end up with little ones older than we prefer, we have many of our children eating solid foods. While we can never be fully self-sustainable, our goal is to be able to provide as much fresh produce and meat as possible to ensure that our kids get a nutritional and balanced diet. Because of having greenhouses and year-round tropical climate, we are able to harvest 12 months out of the year. We grow many of the same things you might have in your garden, as well as many types of fruit that you may not be familiar with. We are also continuing to expand our protein selection, as we now have chickens mainly for eggs, turkeys, rabbits, and our latest addition is guinea fowl. Our tilapia pond is doing very well, and we are harvesting over 500 pounds of fish each year. One of our favorite stories is when a government official visited and commented on how fat our children are. She meant it as a compliment, and she said our children must get meat at least once a week. She was more than a little shocked when we told her that they get some type of meat every day. 2020 has been a challenging year for all of us, but it is amazing how many blessings God has hidden in the day-to-day life of Mahali, Maisha. We have been overwhelmed at the number of comments we get telling us about partners praying for us and for the ministry. And honestly, there are many times when we come to the end of the day that we recognize that it's the prayers of the faithful that carry us through. To say thank you is simply not enough. For the financial support, the prayer covering, and certainly the love that is poured out on the staff and the babies, we can only keep doing what God has called us to do, and ask you to accept our heartfelt gratitude and know that you are making a difference in many lives. And if there are times when you wonder if your gift, be it prayer or financial, is making a difference, please picture one of the starfish being cared for here at Mahali, Maisha, and know it made a difference to that one.
Gary, I think I'm going to have to be on this side to work this. Mahali Maisha is Swahili for a place of life. That's what they chose for their mission over there. And as you can see, it is the babies that they end up caring for are usually abandoned newborns. The one story was the mother asked somebody to hold the baby while she went to the restroom, and then she just never came back. This week they've received 3. 2 of those, I think, were abandoned in the hospital. A mother will give birth and then just sometime will just slip out and leave the baby in the hospital. The police, the hospitals, doctors, even people that live in the area know about Mahali Palm Asia, and so they get calls from all different kinds of sources as far as to come and pick up babies. These are just, I've been fortunate enough to be able to go over to 3 different times, once with a seminary class and twice back with work groups. These are just some general pictures of the compound. This is the building that used to be for groups that were coming over and stayed. This has been converted now to, this is where David and his wife live with their children. It's dry over there. They are essentially right on the equator, so it's warm. They have a rainy season that they flood for a few weeks out of the year, and then the rest of the year they are pretty arid over there, trying to keep things going. Well, I'm not having much luck here. This is their water well. They have a 6-inch well that goes down either 200 or 300 feet. And there's a large enough pump plus an emergency generator on it that keeps the 2 tanks on top of the building full of water. That then gives them water pressure all over the compound. Kenyan electricity is not dependable. Several times during the day, it'll just be turned off for a few minutes or even longer at times. And so this, there's an emergency generator in there then that kicks on and keeps the compound going. One of the years that I went over, we built the chicken house, and so this is what we're working on here. David usually has a number of projects for people for teams to work on when they come over. And so that's part of what you do. You get to work on some projects around the compound. They go out and do medical trips to area orphanages and schools. And then he always takes every group for a 2 or 3 day safari. So you really do get to experience Africa if you go over there. These were the nesting boxes. Over here we worry about foxes and things like that, getting into chickens. Over there it's mongoose and it's honey badgers, and it's some pretty nasty critters compared to what we deal with over here. I always worried about raccoons in my sweet corn. That was always the worst thing that I had to do. Over there, the monkeys climb over the fence and get in the sweet corn. So you'll see dogs in a lot of pictures. The compound is maybe 3 to 5 acres, and it is fenced with a high chain link fence for security reasons, but also to try to keep some of the critters out. And he's always has 2 or 3 dogs that are inside of the fence. You what? The monkeys come over the top. Yeah, he said he had a great. He usually has at least one big dog, and he had a Great Dane. And they got up when they heard the commotion during the night, and that dog caught a monkey. And I guess that would have been a pretty wild scene to have seen, that dog catching that monkey. I raised rabbits for a lot of years, and David said, well, something else we might try is rabbits. So in 2017, I think it was, either 2017 or 18, we went over there, and I told him I would bring materials to build rabbit cages. And so you can imagine the eyes of the customs people as my suitcases went through the x-rays machines, because I had 2 rolls of rabbit wire about that big around, and just they fit catty-cornered in the suitcase. And so those had to go through, plus all the clips to fasten them together and that kind of stuff. You don't go over there with an empty suitcase. If anything, you take a suitcase that you're going to leave and not bring back, because they always need supplies. And so any group that goes over, everybody always takes at least 2 large suitcases full of supplies for them. The next year that I went over, I had 100 bottles of baby vitamins in one of my suitcases. And customs, they pulled me across and opened up the suitcase and said, we don't understand what this is. That'd be a good way to smuggle drugs, hide them in baby. But I convinced them that that wasn't what I was doing, and so I ended up getting through. These were the rabbit cages that we built, and he had some success with those, but I don't think he does rabbits any longer. Rabbits are a lot of hands-on care, and they're not there enough of the time that they could take care of them the way they needed to. He mentioned the tilapia pond. Depending on what skills the group brings with them, you may get to do one of the fish harvests. And they harvest them with these throw nets. You stand on the bank and throw the net out and pull it in. And you sort out, you throw the small fish back and you keep the large fish. And then if you've got people that can clean and fillet fish, then that's what they do with them. And like he said, about 500 pounds of fish a year come out of that pond for them. And that's one of the major sources of proteins that they have for the babies. The aunties, the women that take care of the babies, go through the fish piece by piece with their fingers to make sure that there's no bones in it, right? Because tilapia are a kind of bony fish, but they grow fast and they reproduce fast, so these are just part of the gardens that they have. These are 2 of the babies that they rescued, that they adopted. 2018 is when they closed off for an adoption. So Ethan and Selah would have been adopted probably around 2015, 2016. And then they closed off for an adoption. One of the little boys, and I think I've got a picture of him, is Shaddy. They're trying to adopt Shaddy now, and it's in the court systems because for an adoption, my brother and his wife are not Kenya citizens, so they have to come back, and they're supposed to come back at least a month or 2 out of every year so that they're not like permanent residents. He applies for dual citizenship every time he is eligible for it, but so far it hasn't been accepted. And right now they won't let them adopt Shaddy, so they can't bring Shaddy back with him when they come back to the States. So they're fighting for that right now, and they're getting closer and closer to work through the system, and so hopefully he will be adopted sometime this year. That adoption will take place. There's a lot of time for the teams to share around meals. It's really it's a fun time, a lot of fellowship, a lot of team building. One of the things they do is they go out and do medical clinics. They have doctors and nurse practitioners that visit, and then they will go out and go into a school that maybe has a couple hundred children, students, and then they will work them through and just do a general health checkup and they can prescribe if there's antibiotics that are needed in some kind, they can do that. The lady on the left is either 20 or 30 years she has been in Kenya and has devoted her life to the medical missionary type work. And I apologize, I don't remember her name. While the doctors are working with the kids, the teams that are over there then provide food and entertainment for the kids that are there. If there's one thing you can get a lot of in Kenya, it's a lot of children time. You get to spend a lot of time with kids, and that's what's fun. This is my daughter on the left. She was able to go with me in 2018, and so we got to experience that. This was the year my wife died in 2016, and I went over in 2017, and this little girl's name was Jennifer, which was my wife's name, so I wanted to especially hold her and get a picture of her. This is one of the schools. We presented a program there and brought these kids new shoes. Everybody got a pair of new shoes that day. This is just the beadwork. This is a Swahili woman. And any place you go, they'll have blankets on the ground, and they spend their time doing this intricate beadwork. And you can buy these for not very much money. I don't know how many hours are involved in putting something like that together, but it's always amazing to me to look at that. The little town that they are closest to is Kitengela, and this is just some of the, this is what you run into. If David sent us into town one day to buy some supplies, and he had to tell us where each store was, because looking at some of these, you don't necessarily know. This one is a meat shop. Here's a meat center. This one is a tire store. Here's electricals. I didn't go inside, so I don't know what those electricals are. And then auto parts over here, and I don't know what Dovetail Enterprise is. That would be interesting to know. I think they live up over the top of the shops, and then the shops are on the lower level. This is the Kitengela Hospital. So this is the closest hospital to them. And they would go here to any accidents, any child that is sick. There is a larger hospital. They're about 20 miles from Nairobi, so they can get to a larger hospital if needed. But this is where they would get a lot of their medical care done that they can't do themselves. And just about all the roads are lined with these little shops. And you see people just wandering up and down through there. I suppose if you're native to the area, you know where to go to get what you want. But for those of us from the outside, it was kind of confusing. You can see a nice selection of chairs here that they've got out there if somebody needs one. This was a butcher shop, and I took a picture of this. These two windows, there's a goat carcass hanging in each one of those windows. So if you needed some goat meat, you'd walk in, they'd shoo the flies off of it and cut whichever cut of meat you wanted and send you on your way. So it's a different world. And this is their farmer's market. A lot of it's on the ground, but it's just, as you walk through, there's almost every kind of vegetable that you've ever read about or heard about. You can find in there. As I said, the team spends a lot of times with babies, and they encourage the teams to come in and spend as much time as what they want with the babies. except for nap time. They really are regimented, and when it comes to nap time, they shoo everybody out. And I think this is. So the babies is what it's all about, and that's the main focus that they spend over there. Like I said, I think it's up around 300 now that they've rescued, and most of them have been adopted out. And they look for specifically for Christian families. They do a lot of vetting on the couples before they allow the adoptions to go through. They want to make sure they're moving into a formal home that will be there. And actually part of what they're doing, they're actually building a new residency now, and that building that I showed you is going to be turned into a facility where the parents can come in and stay for a couple weeks while they learn how to take care of a baby. And so they want that to be part of the solid foundation that goes with that. That's all I have. If you're interested in more information, I have some literature here, some booklets that they put together that will tell you, and you're welcome to take one of these if you want to. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
On the adoptions, are they all Kenyan people, or do you have U.S. people?
Kenyan. For some reason, and there was a movement it was during Obama's presidency that it happened, and Obama was against foreign adoptions over here, and the Kenyan government was against it over there. I understand when they say they don't want foreigners coming in and taking all the babies out. Well, the odds of foreigners taking enough babies out of Kenya to make a difference that's pretty sketchy anyway. And for the babies like with the Down syndrome and the cleft palate, or any baby with any kind of disability will not be adopted in Kenya. Their life is hard enough the way it is. They don't want a disabled child to have to take care of. And my brother tells me that if they could have foreign adoptions, all of the kids would be gone in a heartbeat, because there are enough foreigners in the world that like to care for disabled children, that those children would be adopted out and be well taken care of. And so that's moving through now. My understanding is the law passed, but there's a few key political positions that can put a stop to it, which we've all learned how one person can make a big difference in a hurry. Well, you would think over there the law is passed, it ought to come back in, but it hasn't. There are still some high-placed officials that are opposed to it, and so they can stop it by doing different things. But they're hopeful that this will open back up before long. So.
Next week you'll share?
Next week, I told Marie I couldn't even do this in a half an hour, let alone do it all in a half an hour. So next week I'm going to come back and I'm going to do some pictures from the safari and some other general shots from Africa, and talk a little bit about the experience beyond Mahali, Maisha that we've been able to have over there. So thanks for coming.
Have jobs and work?
Do what?
Do most of the men have jobs and work?
No, not most of them. A lot of day labor. A lot of guys go downtown, and if they get picked up, they bring supper home. If they don't get picked up, they don't bring supper home. There's a lot of factories, so there are jobs over there, And that'd be interesting for me to look at the unemployment rate and just see what they consider. We poured concrete as one of our projects, and David said, now this guy's going to bring 3 or 4 guys with him. He says their general wage is $2 a day. That's what they get for manual labor to pour this concrete. He said, I pay them $10 a day. He said, and I don't have any trouble getting people to come out here and work for me. So he gives them 5 times as much as what they normally get, and it's still only $10 a day over there. So it's a pretty low standard of living overall.
We need to quit today.
Okay, thank you.